I closed a $1.2 million art deal on behalf of a client in Barcelona and left the money bag with my husband while I grabbed dinner. By morning he was gone. Phones off, note said, starting fresh in the Maldives with someone new. Thanks. I laughed. He had no idea what he took, just grabbed the bag and ran thinking he won. Some lessons hit slow and hard. I was standing in our bedroom, staring at the pink lipstick smudge on Jonathan's white collar, when I realized I'd been rehearsing for this moment for months. My fingers didn't tremble as I placed the shirt back in the laundry basket. 8 years as an art broker had taught me to recognize forgeries, and my husband of 12 years had become the most unconvincing counterfeit of a faithful partner I'd ever seen. The irony wasn't lost on me. Just yesterday I'd confirmed the biggest deal of my career. A $1.2 million sale to tech billionaire Maxwell Harrington, who wanted a rare Basquiat for his private collection. After years of scraping by in San Francisco's competitive art scene, living commission to commission, I'd finally made it. My little firm, Abigail Carter Fine Arts, would no longer be the industry's best-kept secret. Jonathan had been surprisingly unimpressed when I told him. "That's great, Abby," he'd said, eyes never leaving his phone screen. "Maybe now we can renovate the kitchen like I've wanted." "Not you've wanted, I've wanted." His words revealed so much about our relationship these days. I'd met Jonathan Walsh during my brief stint at an investment bank. He was the quiet accountant with a dry sense of humor who took me to dinner after I'd fallen asleep at my desk 3 nights in a row. Back then, his stability had been so appealing, a counterbalance to my passionate, sometimes impulsive nature. But somewhere along the way, stability had calcified into stagnation. "You're reaching 40 soon," he told me when I quit banking to pursue art brokerage at 30. "This isn't the time for risks." Each passing year without a major breakthrough in my career seemed to vindicate him, his condescension growing with my struggle. The only thing that had kept us together was momentum and the comfortable home we'd built in Potrero Hill. I placed the laundry basket down and walked to my closet, moving aside my clothes to reveal the small safe hidden in the back wall. Inside lay the burner phone I'd bought 3 weeks ago, after finding a strange receipt for dinner at Le Bernardin, a restaurant Jonathan claimed to hate, on a night he was supposedly at a work conference in New York. The texts between Jonathan and someone saved as C were explicit enough. Plans for weekend getaways when I was traveling for work. Complaints about me. Discussions about our finances. But it was the most recent exchange that had sealed their fate. "She's going to Barcelona next week. Big client. Perfect timing. We should make our move while she's gone." "Not yet. She mentioned something about a big commission. Let's wait until I know exactly how much we're talking about." They were waiting to rob me of my success. The man who had belittled my career ambitions for years was planning to benefit from them before leaving. It was almost admirable in its calculated cruelty. I could have confronted him then, thrown him out, started divorce proceedings. But something deeper, colder had settled in me. I wanted to know just how far he would go. How completely his mask would slip given the right opportunity. So I devised a test. One that would reveal the full extent of his betrayal while protecting what I'd worked so hard to achieve. The lipstick smudge wasn't the first clue. There had been missed calls, late nights at the office, weekend golf games, despite his hatred of the sport. But the final confirmation came 3 days ago when I followed him to a cafe in North Beach. I watched through the window as he kissed a blonde woman, her hand resting possessively on his arm. Later, I discovered her name was Chloe Mitchell, a paralegal at a firm near Jonathan's office. I ordered the counterfeit money the next day. As an art broker, I unfortunately knew people who specialized in such things, contacts made through less reputable dealers over the years. 500 fake $100 bills, perfect enough to pass a casual inspection but guaranteed to fail any serious scrutiny. The kind that would fool a greedy husband but not a bank or, more importantly, airport security. My Barcelona trip was perfectly timed. Maxwell Harrington insisted on finalizing the deal in person, and the Spanish city, where he kept one of his many homes, provided the ideal backdrop for my plan. I packed carefully, separating business from my personal scheme with meticulous precision. The night before leaving, I made Jonathan's favorite dinner, roast chicken with rosemary potatoes. We ate in near silence, the television humming in the background. He asked perfunctory questions about my trip while texting under the table. I wondered if he was messaging her, planning their getaway with my money. I should be back Thursday, I said, watching his face for reaction. The client is paying cash, old school. Says he doesn't trust wire transfers. Jonathan's eyes flickered up, a flash of interest breaking through his practiced indifference. Cash? That's unusual. How much again? 1.2 million, I said casually, taking a sip of wine. I'll have to be careful carrying that around Barcelona. He nodded thoughtfully, and I could almost see the calculations running behind his eyes. I imagined him texting Chloe later. Asterisk change of plans. Thursday. Asterisk. The morning of my flight, I transferred the real contract and payment information to a secure digital vault. The paperwork would be signed electronically, the money wired to my business account. All standard procedure in reality. Maxwell Harrington might be eccentric, but he wasn't carrying millions in cash across international borders. I placed the counterfeit bills in an ordinary black messenger bag, making sure they were visible enough to tempt but not so obvious as to arouse suspicion. Then I positioned it carefully in our bedroom closet, making a show of hiding it while Jonathan was in the shower. As I kissed him goodbye, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even disappointment. Just a cool certainty about what would happen next. Be safe, he said, hugging me with unusual enthusiasm. Call me when you land. I will, I promised, already knowing it would be the last conversation we'd have as husband and wife. Take care of things while I'm gone. He had no idea how carefully I'd arranged things to be taken care of, or that the trap I'd set would spring perfectly on the man who thought he was about to commit the perfect crime. Barcelona welcomed me with warm Mediterranean breezes and streets that pulsed with artistic energy, the perfect backdrop for closing the biggest deal of my career. As my taxi wound through the Gothic quarter toward Maxwell Harrington's private residence, I felt oddly calm. Half a world away, Jonathan was likely already searching our bedroom for the bag I'd so carefully hidden. Maxwell's home surprised me, not the flashy mansion I'd expected from a tech billionaire, but a tastefully renovated medieval townhouse with original stone walls and modern glass accents. A woman in a crisp linen suit greeted me at the door. Miss Carter? I'm Elena, Mr. Harrington's assistant. He's waiting for you in the gallery. The gallery turned out to be a converted atrium where natural light streamed through skylights, illuminating an impressive collection. Maxwell Harrington himself stood before the empty space where the Basquiat would hang. A tall, bearded man in his 50s wearing jeans and a simple black t-shirt. You made it, he said, extending his hand. The piece arrived yesterday. Perfect condition. I'm glad to hear it. Shipping art internationally always makes me nervous. Let's see the documentation before we finalize everything. I opened my laptop, pulling up the authentication certificates and provenance records I'd digitized months ago. While Maxwell reviewed them, I glanced at my phone. No messages from Jonathan. I imagined him pacing our bedroom, waiting for my call confirming I'd landed safely with the money. Everything looks in order, Maxwell said finally. My financial team has prepared the wire transfer. It should hit your account by morning. I nodded, relief washing over me. Thank you for trusting me with this acquisition. Your reputation is solid. Small firm, personal service, exactly what I prefer. He gestured toward the other pieces. Walk with me. I'd like your opinion on a few potential additions. We spent the next hour discussing his collection. Despite his reputation for reclusiveness, Maxwell proved to be engaging and knowledgeable. As we finished, Elena reappeared with transfer confirmation documents. Would you join me for dinner? Maxwell asked. There's a fantastic little place nearby. Very discreet. We can discuss future acquisitions. I'd be delighted, I replied, checking my watch. Back in San Francisco, Jonathan would be getting home from work soon. After dinner, I returned to my hotel and initiated the next phase. I called our home phone, knowing Jonathan wouldn't answer but would hear my voice on the machine. Hi honey, just letting you know I got the payment and am having dinner with the client. Everything went perfectly. I'll call again before bed. Then I texted him, deal complete. Having celebratory dinner. The bag is in our room, didn't want to carry it around the city. Call you later with details. I ordered a glass of cava from room service and waited, sipping slowly while watching the Mediterranean from my balcony. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed with a notification from our home security system. The front door had opened then closed. My pulse quickened. The bedroom motion sensor triggered next, followed by the closet door. He'd taken the bait. I slept surprisingly well that night, waking to confirmation that the real payment had been deposited. Over breakfast, I booked an earlier flight home, imagining Jonathan's panic when he realized I'd returned sooner than expected. The plane landed in San Francisco at 7:43 p.m. local time. My Uber pulled up to our house at 8:30. The front porch light was off, unusual for Jonathan, who was paranoid about neighborhood security. I unlocked the door, calling his name as I entered. Silence greeted me. Jonathan. I moved through our darkened living room, noticing subtle differences. His favorite jacket missing from the coat rack. The framed photo of us in Napa Valley removed from the side table. In our bedroom, drawers hung open, clothes hastily removed. His toiletries gone from the bathroom. The closet half empty. And on my pillow a handwritten note. Abby. By the time you read this, I'll be starting fresh in the Maldives with someone new. Thanks for the parting gift. I guess your career finally paid off for both of us. Don't try to find me. Jonathan. P.S. You should change your phone password. Too easy. I sat on the edge of the bed, note in hand, and laughed. The sound echoed through our half-empty bedroom, hollow at first, then building into something genuine. He'd actually done it. Taken the bait completely, confirmed every suspicion, justified every precaution. I checked our joint account. Emptied. Credit cards. Maxed out. Of course. He'd been thorough in his betrayal. I poured myself a glass of the expensive scotch he'd been saving for a special occasion, and called my lawyer, Jennifer. He took it, I said when she answered. Just like you said he would. You got proof. Security footage of him taking the bag. The note he left. Bank statements. Should I notify the police now or wait? Give them until morning, Jennifer advised. Let them get through airport security with the counterfeit cash. Makes the case airtight when they're caught. Did he clean out the accounts too? Everything he could access. Good. That's another charge to add. Financial fraud, theft, transport of counterfeit currency. He's looking at serious time, Abigail. I walked to the window, picturing Jonathan and Chloe at the airport, boarding passes to paradise in hand, counterfeit cash tucked safely in their carry-ons. By now they'd be going through security, perhaps already raising flags with nervous behavior or the unusual density of their bag during scanning. You know what's funny, Jen? I've spent years helping clients identify fakes, teaching them how to spot the tells, the inconsistencies. All while missing the biggest counterfeit in my own home. Don't be too hard on yourself. Professional hazard. We're often blind to what's closest to us. I sipped the scotch, savoring its warmth. I'm not hard on myself at all. In fact, I feel lighter than I have in years. Outside, fog rolled over San Francisco's hills, blanketing the city in soft gray. Somewhere over the Pacific, my husband was flying into a trap of his own making, blissfully unaware that his new beginning was actually his end. I slept surprisingly well that night, my first night in our half-empty house. The scotch probably helped, but there was something else too, the certainty that by morning the carefully laid dominoes would begin to fall. At 6:13 a.m. my phone rang. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen. They've been detained, she said without preamble. TSA flagged the bag during screening. Airport police are holding them until Secret Service arrives. Counterfeiting is federal, remember? I padded to the kitchen in my slippers, phone pressed to my ear, and started brewing coffee. Both of them. For now. Your husband and a woman identified as Chloe Mitchell. They were attempting to board the 5:40 a.m. flight to the Maldives via Dubai. I pictured them at the airport. Jonathan in his travel outfit, khaki pants and a blue button-down, his "I'm a sophisticated traveler" look. Chloe probably wearing something inappropriately revealing for international travel. They'd have arrived early, nervous energy masked as eagerness for their new life. Jonathan always insisted on being 3 hours early for flights. Can you get me details as they develop? I asked. Already arranged. My contact at SFO will keep me posted. Are you okay? This is going to get messy. I considered the question while watching coffee drip into my mug. I'm better than okay. I feel clear. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and transferred the remaining money from my personal account to a new one Jennifer had helped me set up last week. Then I called my assistant Maria. I need you to reschedule all my appointments for the next 2 days. I explained. Family emergency. Is everything all right? Maria asked, concern evident in her voice. Getting there, I replied. Oh, and if anyone calls asking for Jonathan, take a message but don't tell them anything else. By 10 a.m. Jennifer texted, Secret Service involved now. Both still detained. She's demanding a lawyer. He's in shock. I smiled at that. Jonathan hated surprises, couldn't even handle surprise birthday parties. This particular surprise must have shattered his carefully constructed world. At noon my doorbell rang. Two serious-looking men in suits stood on my porch, badges already extended. Mrs. Walsh? I'm Agent Rollins with the U.S. Secret Service, and this is Agent Donahue. We'd like to ask you some questions about your husband. I ushered them into the living room, playing the part of the confused, concerned wife. We've detained Jonathan Walsh attempting to transport counterfeit currency out of the country, Agent Rollins explained. Approximately $500,000 in fake hundreds. He claims the money belongs to you, says you acquired it through an art sale in Barcelona. I widened my eyes in practiced shock. Counterfeit? That's impossible. I just closed a legitimate deal with a client, but the payment was by wire transfer. I never handled any cash. Your husband was very insistent. Said you brought it home in a black messenger bag. I shook my head slowly. I don't understand. Jonathan knew about my business trip, but... I paused, letting my voice crack slightly. Wait, where was he going? He was supposed to be here when I got home. The agents exchanged glances. Agent Donahue's expression softened slightly. Mrs. Walsh, your husband was attempting to leave the country with a female companion. They had one-way tickets to the Maldives. I let my face crumple, tears welling. 8 years of community theater in college finally paying off. There must be some mistake, I whispered. Jonathan wouldn't, he couldn't. Agent Rollins cleared his throat uncomfortably. Ma'am, we found a note in your husband's possession. It appears he was planning to leave you. A note. I echoed, letting a tear fall. May I see it? The agent pulled out an evidence bag containing Jonathan's handwritten confession. I reached for it with trembling fingers. We'll need you to come to our office to make a formal statement, Agent Donahue said gently. And we'll need to search your home. I nodded numbly. Of course. Whatever you need. Their search yielded exactly what I expected. Nothing. The fake bills had been quality counterfeits, untraceable to me. My phone records showed only business calls to Barcelona. My bank statements reflected only the legitimate wire transfer. Jennifer met me at the Secret Service office, playing her role perfectly. My client is the victim here, she stated firmly. Mr. Walsh clearly acted alone, stealing what he believed was cash and planning to abandon his wife. Mrs. Walsh is a respected art broker who conducts her business legally and ethically. By evening, a different kind of call came, this one from the county jail. Jonathan, voice small and broken. Abby? They're letting me make one call. Jonathan, I kept my voice neutral. You've been arrested. It's all a mistake, he said quickly. Someone must have switched the money. I need you to tell them it was real when you gave it to me. The desperation in his voice should have satisfied me, but strangely I felt nothing. There was no money, Jonathan. My client paid by wire transfer. It's all documented. A long silence followed. What? The transaction was electronic. I never had cash. But the bag. What bag, Jonathan? The one you took when you emptied our accounts and ran off with another woman. Another silence, longer this time. I could almost hear the pieces clicking into place in his mind. You knew, he finally whispered. About Chloe? For weeks. About your plans to steal from me? I had my suspicions. So you set me up. His voice hardened with accusation. No, Jonathan. I gave you a choice. You chose to steal, cheat, and abandon. I simply made sure you faced consequences. Where's Chloe now? He asked, voice suddenly uncertain. She made bail 2 hours ago. Apparently, she told investigators you forced her to come with you. Said she had no idea about the counterfeit money. His bitter laugh held no humor. Of course she did. Goodbye, Jonathan. Wait. Abby, please. I ended the call, set down my phone and walked to the window. Outside, San Francisco continued its evening rhythm, lights winking on across the hills, fog rolling in from the bay. Inside, I felt the first real stirrings of liberation. Jennifer texted later, "He's being charged with possession and transport of counterfeit currency, intent to defraud and grand theft for the emptied accounts. Looking at 10 to 15 years. She's claiming victimhood, but they're still investigating her involvement." I replied with just one word, "Perfect." That night, I opened the expensive bottle of champagne Jonathan had been saving for his 40th birthday next month. As I sipped from a crystal flute, I reflected on how differently we define success. For Jonathan, it had been money and status. For me, it had always been authenticity. How ironic that his downfall came from his failure to distinguish the real from the fake. Morning light streamed through windows I'd finally opened fully. Jonathan had always complained about the glare on his computer screen. 3 months had passed since his arrest, and the champagne bottle stood empty on my kitchen counter, a reminder of the night I'd toasted my freedom. I hadn't gotten around to recycling it yet. Something about its presence felt symbolic. My phone buzzed with a notification. Another email from Maxwell Harrington. Since our Barcelona deal, he'd recommended me to 3 other collectors in his exclusive circle. My small firm was suddenly handling acquisitions worth millions, and I'd had to hire 2 additional staff members to manage the workflow. Another satisfied client, Maria, called from her desk in what used to be our guest bedroom, now converted to a proper office. "Mr. Yoshida loved the Rothko print you found for him." I glanced at the framed article from the San Francisco Chronicle on my wall. "Bay Area art broker makes waves in high-end market." The reporter had been fascinated by my Barcelona deal, though I'd carefully omitted certain details about the aftermath. The publicity had brought curious new clients through my door, people who might never have found me otherwise. "The gallery called," Maria continued. "They want to know if you've decided about their offer." The offer? To partner with Westridge Gallery downtown, expanding my brokerage into a proper showroom. It would mean a significant change, moving from behind-the-scenes deals to a more public presence in the art world. "Tell them I'll have an answer by Friday," I replied, surprising myself with my hesitation. Before Jonathan's betrayal, I would have jumped at the opportunity. Now I found myself weighing each decision carefully, savoring the luxury of choices made solely for myself. The divorce proceedings were moving forward without drama. Jonathan, facing federal charges and abandoned by Chloe, who'd apparently found another target within weeks, had signed everything my lawyer put in front of him. His court-appointed attorney had suggested cooperation might help at sentencing. I sorted through the mail Maria had placed on my desk. Among the business correspondence was a cream-colored envelope addressed in familiar handwriting. My mother's. Inside was a card showing a phoenix rising from flames. "Abigail. I never liked him. You know that. But I never wished this ending for you either. Your father and I are relieved you're finding your way through this mess he created. When you're ready, the guest room is waiting. Sometimes going home helps you figure out where you're heading next. Love, Mom." I traced my finger over her words. My parents had been cautiously supportive when I'd married Jonathan, and diplomatically silent as our relationship deteriorated. Now my mother's blunt honesty felt refreshing. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. Through the window I spotted Jennifer's car at the curb. "Perfect timing," I called, letting her in. I was just about to have lunch. Jennifer looked more relaxed than I'd seen her during the legal whirlwind of recent months. "I bring news," she announced, following me to the kitchen. "The plea deal is finalized. 10 years, eligible for parole in 7. He's taking it." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of emotions, satisfaction that justice was being served, but also a twinge of something like pity. "And the restitution?" "Full repayment of the funds he stole, plus legal fees." She set her briefcase on the counter. "Which means this is officially the last paperwork you need to sign. After this, he's the government's problem, not yours." As I signed the documents, I realized I hadn't thought about Jonathan in days. His presence in my life was fading, not in a dramatic cathartic burst, but in the quiet way of a tide receding, leaving only smooth sand behind. "So," Jennifer said, accepting the glass of iced tea I offered. "What now? Please tell me you're planning something beyond work." I smiled. "Actually, I am. I'm going to Sedona next week. With friends." My college roommate Sophia had called unexpectedly, suggesting a girls' trip. "Somewhere with big sky and no memories," she'd said. 3 other friends had quickly joined the plan, women I'd gradually lost touch with during my marriage to Jonathan, who'd found them too loud and inappropriate. Good, Jennifer nodded approvingly. You deserve it. Will you be back for the gallery proposal deadline? Just in time. Though I'm still not sure what I'm going to do. What's holding you back? It's a great opportunity. I considered the question as I sliced lemons for our tea. I think I'm enjoying the space to decide. For so long I was reacting to Jonathan's criticisms, to financial pressure, to others' expectations. Now I can choose what I actually want. The week in Sedona passed in a blur of laughter, hikes through red rock formations, and late-night conversations around the fire pit at our rented cabin. My friends asked about Jonathan just once, listening with expressions ranging from horror to vindication as I recounted the whole story. I always knew that man was hiding something, Sophia declared. He was too controlled, too perfect. Not perfect enough, apparently, I replied, surprised by my ability to joke about it now. On our last evening, as sunset painted the desert landscape in fiery gold, Teresa raised her wine glass. To Abby, who didn't just survive, but orchestrated the most satisfying revenge I've ever heard. I shook my head. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. Then what was it about? Diane asked. The question lingered as I watched light fade from the sky. Justice, I said finally. And maybe proving to myself that I could trust my instincts again. Returning to San Francisco, I felt renewed. The city's familiar foggy embrace welcomed me, but everything looked different now. Sharper, more vibrant, full of possibility. Friday morning I called the gallery owner. I'm declining your partnership offer, I told him. But I'd like to discuss a different arrangement. Exhibition space for emerging artists I discover, with my firm handling the business end. That evening I stood on my deck overlooking the city lights, breathing deeply. The house was on the market, too many echoes of a life I'd outgrown. I'd found a loft downtown, walking distance to museums and the farmers market I never had time to visit before. My phone buzzed with a message from Maria. Mr. Harrington referred another client. This one collects emerging Asian artists. Meeting Tuesday. I typed back, perfect. And let's talk Monday about your promotion to associate broker. Setting down my phone, I raised my wine glass to the city spread below, to its lights and shadows, its fog and clarity. To endings that become beginnings. To the art of starting fresh, this time with eyes wide open. Here's to the next masterpiece, I whispered to the night. One entirely of my own creation.